Hello friends and fellow bibliophiles, welcome back to Kat's Novel Adventures. Today I am sharing everything I read in September. In September, I participated in 2 readathons, Week of Weird Round 4, as well as Series September. I also participated in the Cozy Cottage Book Club. As far as my reading stats, I read a total of 6 books and 3 short stories. When it comes to my ratings, 2 of the short stories earned 4 stars and the third one received 5 stars. As for my books, I had 1 3-star, 1 3.5 star, 2 4 stars, and 2 5 stars. The first book that I finished was Autumn from the Heart of the Home by Susan Branch. This was the September selection for the Cozy Cottage Book Club. This is a lifestyle type of book with personal stories by the author sprinkled throughout. It features recipes, ideas for entertaining, decorating tips, and so much more for the autumn season. I ended up making the corn pudding, which turned out delicious. It was very easy to make. However, when I do make it again, I am going to be sure to cut back on that 4th teaspoon of cayenne pepper. Does not seem like a lot, but it's sure to give the corn pudding a kick. There are also some other recipes that I would like to try throughout the rest of the autumn season. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. Week of Weird Round 4 took place during September the 15th through the 21st. It is hosted by my friend Krista at Fiber Artsy and Jason at Jason's Weird Reads. I read 2 books and 3 short stories. One of the books was The Possession of Natalie Glasgow by Haley Piper. This was my first book ever, first story ever by Haley Piper. I really enjoyed it. It was a unique possession story. I plan to read more works by her. I ended up giving this book 3.5 stars. And as far as the other book, it is the first in a manga series, a very weird manga series by Yukinobu Tatsu. It has aliens and spirits in it, and I really enjoyed it. I ended up giving it 5 stars, and I will be continuing with this series. As for my short stories, which I enjoyed all 3 of them, I read The Weirdest World by R.A. Lafferty and 2 stories by Stephen King in celebration of his birthday on September the 21st, and they were I Am the Doorway and The Jaunt. I also vlogged my whole entire week of weird adventures. So if you have not seen that video yet and want to hear more of my thoughts about these books and short stories, please check it out. I will leave a link in the description box below. Series September is a month-long readathon hosted by my friends Krista at Books and Jams and Sarah at Sarah's Nightstand. I had several books picked out for this readathon, but I did not get to everything that I had picked out, and that was because I was pretty busy at the beginning of September. I was performing in a murder mystery dinner theater. I was volunteering at a book fair. I was trying to get ready to go back to school, and we had Hurricane Francine visit us, so we had to contend with that for a couple of days. But that was okay, and even though I didn't start when I needed to, I still earned a bingo. So I do feel successful. But as far as the books that I read, I ended up counting Dan to Dan for the horror prompt, Stay Out of the Basement counted for the middle grade prompt, Livid counted for the thriller prompt, and Garlic and the Witch counted for the romance prompt. Yes, I counted it for romance because I really, really love the Garlic series. Now, the 2 books that I didn't get to that I carried over into October was The Secret of Shadow Ranch by Carolyn Keene and The Angel of Indian Lake by Stephen Graham Jones. Did not start this at all, but did start this one in September and ended up finishing it in October, and I ended up reading this one in October as well. Both of these counted for October readathons, so I will share my thoughts on both of those books in my October wrap-up. Now let me share the books that I read for Series September that I have not mentioned already. And the first one is Stay Out of the Basement by R.L. Stine. This is a middle grade horror story about a botanist who is experimenting on plants in his basement with some unbelievable results. I remember reading this book back in the day when my son Barry was a kid, and I enjoyed it back then as much as I enjoyed it upon reread. This is an entertaining book, as most Goosebumps books are. It has its fair amount of suspense, and I will say it's probably one of the scarier or the more sinister books in the Goosebumps series. My book also has some bonus features after the story that includes a Q&A with R.L. Stine, information about cloned animals, as well as information on monsters, both real and fictional. There's also some directions on how to make a creepy candle, and there are some facts about plants, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I ended up having a fun time with this book and ended up giving it 4 stars. The next book is Garlic and the Witch by Bree Paulson. This is the second book in the Garlic series. This tender-hearted middle grade series begins with Witch Agnes trying to juggle too many responsibilities, which includes concocting a vegetarian blood substitute for Count. She turns to Garlic for help, sending Garlic and Count on an adventure together. I loved it. I love learning more about Witch Agnes's backstory, as well as following Garlic on her journey of self-discovery. Paulson's illustrations are warm and cozy, and she captures the emotions of the characters wonderfully. I think that Garlic is precious, and I think this is a sweet story that will appeal to readers of all ages. I gave it 5 stars. My last book for Series September, Livid by Patricia Cornwell. This is the 26th crime fiction novel in the Kay Scarpetta series. Forensic pathologist Kay Scarpetta is involved in a case concerning the mysterious death of a judge's sister. Kay happens to be friends with the judge who is presiding over a high-profile murder trial. Kay also happens to be a witness for that same trial. I did find the storyline interesting, and the murder weapon used in the murder is both fascinating and frightening. However, I did not care for the 2 feuding families who were involved in the trial. I felt like it was distracting. It was like background noise. I also didn't really care for the investigative aspect of this novel. For some reason, it just felt a little drawn out and boring. The travel time that included Marino and Scarpetta traveling from the courthouse to the house where the murder happened seemed a little bit drawn out as well. Kind of like Autopsy, the previous book in this series, Livid kind of felt flat. But that's okay, because I happen to be a fan of Kay Scarpetta. It's like visiting an old friend. So I will continue reading the series because I need to know what's going to happen next with Kay and her family and friends. So while it didn't land perfectly, I still enjoyed it and I gave it 3 stars. Well, friends, that's a wrap on what I read during September. Even though it was a lighter reading month for me, it was an enjoyable one. I always love participating in Week of Weird and Series September. I made some progress on some of my series, and I even discovered a new series with Dan to Dan. What about you? Did you participate in Week of Weird or Series September? If so, let me know in the comments below. You know I love hearing what you're up to. As always, thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate you watching and hanging out with me. And until our paths cross again, stay amazing and be adventurous.